if you would like to work out how to get yourself your next 50 clients step by step, you're in the right place. We also want to show you how to get the client, what team you'll need, and exactly what to do to actually make all of it happen.
Sell the metal. Sell the metal. Sell the metal. Sell the metal. Sell the metal.
What's up? I guess we can call you metal sellers now, right? Do you reckon we can call them metal sellers? Is that what it is? Chris and Faris here from the Predictable Sales crew are essentially here to run you through what I think could possibly be your 2024 plan if you choose just to fucking take it and run with it at the same time as well, right? We ran a poll the other day and found out that the majority of people that we have spoken to or in our audience or even current client list and all sort of stuff as well, kind of want to be able to get a really clear path to being able to get the next 50 clients either now or in 2024 or whatever it is. And I thought that what better way to walk through that than just to fucking walk through that and show you essentially what you need to do, what the pathway to doing that would be. And because why the fuck wouldn't I show you exactly how we actually help someone do that and essentially go through the process of some examples and everything else at the same time too, right? So
hell yeah.
I guess who this is for, I guess if you're a high ticket business owner who is sort of sitting between like that 6 to 10 grand a month at like the bare minimum or thereabouts, who is struggling with like inconsistent sales right now, wants to get more clients on who are ideal, better fit clients that they'd like to ideally work with, because you've possibly been struggling with people who may not be the best fit or whatever it is. You probably do some content marketing now of some sort, and you're looking to actually get more clients from your existing audience and get the people who you ideally, genuinely do want to work with, as opposed to just whoever you can take on at the same time as well. If that is you, and if you would like to work out how to get yourself your next 50 clients step by step, you're in the right place. We also want to show you how to get the client, what team you'll need, and exactly what to do to actually make all of it happen at the same time as well.
Hell yeah. Let's get it.
What do you see some of the main problems to be for people who ideally are at that stage trying to get a high level of or high influx of clients coming through that you see with our existing clients or the prospects you see coming through anyway?
Definitely, man. So the first thing is like really simple. They're just not specific enough with who they want to work with. I think at that stage is like a lot of the times people will like start to niche, but if you're not, that would be the first mistake. The first thing that you got to make sure is just have a specific person that you really like, you actually want to work with a specific problem that you can solve with them. And based off your experience, some sort of preliminary proof that you can actually solve that problem.
Evidence of some sort, right?
Some sort of evidence. Like that's going to be the first thing that I would look at like 6 to 10K, that if you don't have in place is going to affect your ability to like market and build an audience and affect everything else.
I think something worth mentioning here too, that's worth communicating here as well is like, if you started this like now, right, which is November, 18th, right, here in Dollar Redo land. And you got yourself your next 50 clients, and it was one client per week for the next 52 weeks, right? And you didn't suck, and you retained, let's say, 70% of those people, if that makes sense, right? And you average somewhere between 2,500 to 3K per month, right? If you're not good at math, let me just actually map it out for you at the same time as well. 70% of those people that you would keep would probably be somewhere around the 35 to 40% of the actual clients you keep. So let's call it 38 clients at 2,500. You're looking at around 70K in monthly recurring revenue, 70 to 90K monthly recurring revenue there that you would actually add from just getting one client per week, right? Yeah. It's not crazy. It's not fucking insane amount of work. Even if you suck at sales, it's realistic. Like if you sucked at sales and you were like a 20% closer, right? It's one sales call per day in order for you to hit that goal in 2024, right? I think a lot of people don't necessarily probably view it as simple as that could be, if that makes sense. And I think that might actually be the first problem, right? Like, not knowing how simple it could be to actually get yourself to, because hypothetically, right, if we're suggesting that people we're speaking to right now are between 6 to 10K per month, this will get you anywhere from 75 to 100K per month in the next 12 months, right? Which again, I think is a very achievable goal, very easy goal to achieve and simple to do so if you're focused on the right things, right? I just don't think most people are focused on the right things. And Faris mentioning the first thing here being like the person, the problem. What I notice is like no one gives a fuck about this. Not one person gives a fuck about this in any way, shape, and form. But you would have heard at the beginning of this video that I called out someone who is struggling with inconsistent sales for themselves or their team, sort of sitting between that 6 to 10K per month, wanting to get the next 50 clients or whatever it is, right? Like we're very clear on our person. And even people who are doing 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 grand per month or whatever it is right now will still be able to hear and understand the actual problems that they're experiencing right now that might be preventing them from being able to get their next 50 clients too. But it may not be just for them. It might be their next 50 clients through the vehicle of their team instead, right? But without us knowing that, it would be really hard for you to sit here and resonate and go, okay, cool. Like now I feel as if I am understanding that this is something that I could possibly benefit from, if that makes sense, right? Or benefit from. And where I see a lot of people make huge mistakes is that they don't have this like resonant frequency with people who view their content, watch their videos, are in their group and have this like, I guess like sucked in affinity where they're like, fuck, he's speaking directly to me. This is exactly what I'm experiencing. And this is exactly what's happening at the same time too, right? Like, so let's talk about this in the first place, because this definitely is the first step to it for sure. But what are some of the symptoms of someone getting this wrong?
You gotta like, I mean, the big one is just like your marketing is fucking falling flat. You're not getting actual people raising hand on your offers. So that's a big one. You're actually gonna have a hard time building your audience, right? Because you don't even have a specific person that you might be going after, and as a consequence, you won't be able to make audience building or like building your group or whatever it is, your list, as simple as like friend requesting, as simple as like sending connection invites and doing that consistently over a period of time, or having a VA do it. And that could be like your first stage of audience building without needing ads or anything like that. And you can build like a 2,000-3,000 list, right? Or group if you have specific. So those are like two things that are like really, another one too is DM, right? Like your openers, your conversations aren't, your scripting, it's all not specific. So those are like the issues that typically happen as well when they're not specific.
I mean, that's the problem I have by not having it in place. I'm talking a different problem, right? Mm-hmm. Someone watching this going, oh, fuck, that's the reason that I'm not able to do this, right? Because someone just sitting there clicking a button isn't really thinking about if it's a personal problem, right?
No.
So when the thing of that, in my opinion, the actual issues, the pain points are experiencing, like the delivery sucks.
That's a bit, yeah, expectation of delivery is going to be fucked up.
Disagree. It's not expectation delivery. It's that they have a dumpster fire and delivery. It's not, and this is not a client success issue. This is, I have the wrong clients that I'm working with issue, and I hate my life because of there's a consequence of that.
Right.
I'm talking about the pain point that the person will be experiencing who isn't working with us, because what you just spoke to then is probably more someone who is working with us who's understanding that, oh, that's why my audience building is hard. Oh, that's why I'm having a hard time with scripting all to the stuff too, if that makes sense right now. Because a lot of people out there might not be experiencing that at all if they're not clear on this in the first place at the same time too. So I'm probably more communicating people who are not clients right now who would have a pain point that they're experiencing as a consequence of not having this stuff dialed in. And in my opinion, it's two things, right? It's their delivery sucks. They're not charging the price they'd actually like. And as a consequence of that, they're stuck in the day-to-day so much they can't even get new clients in the first place, right? That's a huge one, right? And you don't have people like literally reaching out to you on a daily basis. I'm like, yo, right, where the fuck can I sign up with you in some way, shape, and form, right? Yes, everything Faris just mentioned is probably very helpful when you're actually looking to find more of the right people in the first place. But in order for you to work out, is this something I even need to explore? If you're sitting there with like DMs not lighting up with people who already want to work with you in some way, shape, and form, and your delivery kind of feels like, fuck, man, this is not how I expected it to go. This is not how I expected my business to go, because I expected to be working with people who were better, who respected me more, and actually put myself in a position where I genuinely felt like I'd be able to scale to whatever number that I could in the first place and be able to bring a great team in and then have a great time to do so. without me sitting there suffering, wondering if I'm ever going to get myself out of the delivery in the first place at the same time too, right? That's probably more so what you're feeling if you aren't in a position where you're actually having this thing in place in the first place, right? And interestingly enough, right, like one of the first things that we do with every client that we work with, and I can actually walk through an example of this. I remember doing this with Zach, right? Which is, so Zach Bunt, he works with real estate wholesalers, right? When he first came to us, they were sitting at about $8,000 per month. The issue that they were experiencing is that they had a huge amount of, how do I describe this? A huge amount of inconsistency in sales. And like, it was only a call every now and again, right? Delivery wasn't too bad. They run SEO for the wholesalers and investors. And one of the things that they were experiencing was that they just didn't have an inflow of calls. And when they did get someone, it just never felt like it was the right person in any way, shape, and form, right? And I remember doing, like, the first thing we do with every single client, we get them to fill out a sales process audit, essentially, right? Which is where we break down what your offer is, what the results you get with people are right now, what scripts you have in place, what your past sales calls and like messenger combos, all that stuff currently look like, so we can get a full snapshot and picture of what it is you're actually experiencing on a daily basis, as opposed to someone else who might just say, cool, jump in a course or whatever it is, if that makes sense, right? What I did was I helped reverse engineer the exact person they wanted on a call in the first place, right? And why this is really important is because if you can break it down, as far as you said, from person to problem, and then explain the process in which you can actually walk them from where they are right now to where they'd like to be, i.e. from their heaven to their hell or whatever it is, right? We initially chose for Zach, it was like getting someone who's doing 2 deals per month to 5 deals per month or something to the effect that in the first place too, right? Made it much easier to communicate to the market that we help investors get a really clear problem solved, which is like they did not have enough inflow of people coming in. And as a consequence of that, and a few other things that came in play at the same time as well, they were able to go from that 8K, I think they're sitting at about 65 to 70K per month right now, signing up around about that one client per week or thereabouts. They're starting to scale up more now. I think it's as of right now, they're at about 5 clients for this month right now, and it's the 18th. But what it does is your market starts to understand the actual issue that you can that you can get solved with them and that they're experiencing on a daily basis. And as a consequence of that, they start going, okay, I need to listen to Zach, or I need to listen to Ryan, or I need to listen to Dylan, or whatever your name is, if that makes sense, because they fully fucking understand that you have what they need in some way, shape, and form. Anything else you can add to that?
No, that's literally perfectly communicated.
Yeah, that's kind of the first thing we do with everyone, right? And like the reason why that's actually really important is because once we reverse engineer that, we now know from that. So hypothetically, we're looking at, so we can even use like Zach as a case study for this, right? So it was like they had website builds, then they had SEO, and I think if memory serves me correctly, there was like a Google ad or something like that as well in the beginning anyway, right? And now we have 3 core areas that we can very easily work out. Okay, cool. What are the main problems that each of these solve, right? What are the main problems that each of these solves? What are the main problems that each of these solve? Now we can actually splinter off content pieces or lead magnets or whatever it is that are all directly related back to the ideal thing that they would want someone to be messaging them about in the first place, right? And what's really cool about this is when you start getting really clear on the person and the problem and the way in which you can actually help them achieve the goal that they want to achieve in the first place, you can very easily work out, okay, now, if it's a website, I can give away maybe a website template for guys who are already doing 2 deals per month to really easily help capture more lead flow in some way, shape, and form to help them actually get to XYZ a lot quicker in the first place. And if you give something like that away, it makes it significantly easier for when you actually do get in the direct messenger conversation with them, because now you guys are actually talking about something that 1, you do, and 2, they want, right? So instantaneously, there is an alignment by nature and force of them going, yes, I'd like to see that thing, because the copy around it was based around a problem that, one, they want solved, that they know that they have, and two, that you solve as a part of your core service in the first place as well. So it creates this like glove fit alignment that when you actually have someone in a conversation like that, it's fucking impossible to not actually be able to get them to a stage where it's either we're able to help you, or we're able to help you later, like now or later, as opposed to it be a who the fuck are you and where the fuck are you messaging me from in the first place at the same time as well, right? Which is happening for a lot of people, if that makes sense, right? And like this isn't like the only way to do it, but what problem this solves is if your inbox is not lighting up with people who already want what you're selling, it's because you don't have a very clear picture of what it is that you would like someone to say to you in Messenger about or prior to speaking to you. And they can't very clearly say that, one, that's a thing that you can solve, and two, you don't have a way to start a conversation with them, or more likely, you don't have a way for them to start a conversation with you, right? So this is where a lot of people have a really fucking hard time, and it makes it really fucking hard for them to actually have any affinity with the person they're speaking to, and they have to like have all these random scripts that make no sense in any way, shape, and form, which just make it really fucking hard for someone to understand where you're trying to lead them and whether they can even get help with you in the first place at the same time too, right? Do you have any other examples of people that maybe you could actually sort of run through that are in a similar position or whatever it is?
Yeah, a really solid one would be somebody that we actually recently worked with, Drayden, in his offers. And you know, like as you were saying this, like the glove fit, I feel like a solid way to look at it is like incentive alignment. It's like the incentive between the thing that you're marketing and the thing that you do, like to cross all of it, the wants and needs to all align. And it just feels like natural. And like if I look at the marketing of some of the top adopters in our program and clients like Braden, where the thing that they were giving away spoke specifically to the thing that the actual person wanted. And it was so seamless, right? Like the person commenting, the DM comments, the whole thing was so seamless. And it fits so perfectly well with the actual service, so that when they were doing onboarding, the sales call, the whole thing, right? It's just so seamless. So there's definitely that example. Colin recently as well, somebody that we've worked with in the like kind of medical space as well. And they're physical therapists specifically. And their offers, their marketing is like incentive-wise is so aligned with like that as well. So there's a lot of example actually, but yeah, like.
So Braden took a brand new offer from 0 to 15K per month in like 35 days, and Colin got to 210 grand a month, essentially using the micro offer strategy that we're speaking about right now at the same time too, right? Something really worth mentioning with Braden as well was he actually had prospects of his wives watching the marketing and convincing the prospect to do it over him having to convince his wife, which I thought was really cool at the same time as well, if that makes sense, right? And I just thought that would be worth mentioning at the same time too, right? So when you're in the journey of actually trying to get that get those, your next 50 clients or whatever it is, right? One of the core things that you want to that you want to be in control of is your inflow of people who want what you're selling. Now, if you can control that, what's really interesting is that now you have leverage, right? Not only leverage for yourself to be able to have an inbox full of people who ideally want what you're selling at the same time as well, but let's suppose that you'd ideally like to bring an appointment setter on or something. Maybe you have an appointment setter right now who isn't currently doing anywhere near as good as that you would ideally like them to be doing. The biggest reason why I see most people fail with setters is like a lack of inbound lead flow of people who already want what you're selling that they can sift through and disqualify through, as opposed to trying to find people and them actually being your whole acquisition system in the first place, which is the worst thing in the fucking world, right? Like, I can't think of anything worse than giving a setter nothing and then blaming them for everything, right? It's like what most people do when it comes to appointment setters is they essentially give someone who is not a chef a really poor ingredient list to go and bake a cake or a meal of some sort, but also give them absolutely zero utensils to do so, no ingredients, and no know-how on how to do it. They literally just give them the ingredient list and say, you better come back with a really cool cake or whatever it is, if that makes sense. And the person just sits there going like, I have no fucking clue what to do. They do their best. They then come back to you, and guess what happens? You get pissed off with them because they didn't do the right thing, but you didn't actually help them in any way, shape, and form. And as a consequence of that, now they fucking hate you. You think it's them. It's actually you. And the issue was you never had an inflow of people who already wanted what you were selling that could ideally have been filtered through to find the best fits by your appointment setter in the first place, if that makes sense, right? Now, why I bring that up, why that's important, why this is of any interest or desire to you in any way, shape, and form too, is if you understand that person and the problem and have that process in place of, and this is the process essentially, right? And how you get them there. Now, when you're actually mapping scripting out, right? You know what problems you're looking for really, 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 really easily. So we always want to look for a goal, a gap, a reason the gap exists, and if someone ideally wants help, if that makes sense, right? So like this is a very, 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 very simple scripted framework, if that makes sense. With every client that we work with, we actually help map out what their scripting should look like for each different scenario, for whether it's in your group join, a two-step opt-in, whether it's for an appointment set or for themselves, because it's two different types of conversations they ideally want to have at the same time as well. But for each different person we work with, if we know that the person that they're ideally wanting to work with is, say, a real estate agent, right? And the real estate agent that they're looking to work with is ideally someone who's already doing 2 deals per month and wants to get to 5 deals per month or whatever it is, or the language around that. We know that the goal questions that we would use a scripting of has to be based around listings or deals, right? So the language it gets used in has to be around deals or listings, because that's the language that the real estate agents themselves need to hear, right? If that's wrong, there's no resonance once you've actually spoken to them. And the hard thing that you'll experience is like, you'll just have some guy in there going, why the fuck are you asking gold questions? This doesn't make sense. And they'll essentially make you feel like a fucking idiot, when in reality you're not, but you just aren't actually meeting them in the conversation they're currently having in their mind. And that fucks everyone up in every way, shape, and form, right? So the really cool thing is, we will help, and we do with everyone, map out what that scripting should look like so that 1 to 2 in 10 conversations you have booking for a call. That's kind of the average at this point in time. So, like, let's say it's real estate agent, the goal questions have to be based around listings. You know that the gap questions have to be based around listings at the same time too, like where they're currently at. And the reason questions, which is ideally the problem questions, you can sort of come up with like a scenario where it's like almost like a multiple choice questionnaire, right? Which is like, cool. Now you have a bit of an understanding as to like, what are the main reasons why someone wouldn't be able to get the current listings that they need right now? Is it traffic? Is it lead flow? Or is it the way they're converting and following up with them, if that makes sense, right? So someone says, I'm currently at 2 listings and I want to get to 5. You can probably say, fuck, okay, cool. What I usually hear people say that the issue around this is like X, Y, Z. It's like traffic, leads, or follow-up or whatever it is. Which of the 3 do you think it is preventing you from being able to get to the goal you'd like to get to right now? Why this is important is because you meet the prospect in the conversation they're having in their mind about why they aren't where they want to be right now. And as a consequence of that, they actually self-admit, I don't know if self-admit's the right word, but like they will very happily tell you what it is that's not working for them right now. And now you're in a position where you can literally just ask them and say, hey man, like that's exactly what we help with. We've got a million clients we've done that with. Do you have 10 minutes for us to have a conversation and see if we could help you do the same at the same time too, right? Now, where most people fuck up with this and make it really, 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 really hard for themselves is they can even have the best scripting in the world. But if the way the conversation is started is still not done with an inflow of intent of people who already want what you're selling, you still set yourself up for what's probably and possibly like the 10 times harder type of conversation you can have, and it's just 10 times more work, if that makes sense too, right? But to err on an example more than anything else, let's presume that we put out a sales script, right? This is the freebie that goes out. Now, you can presume that if someone opts in for a sales script, they're either not closing enough, or they don't have enough lead flow to close. They're kind of the only 2 reasons why someone would technically opt in for a sales script just based on what we see more than anything else at the same time too. And we can actually have conversations with this person based off the intent of knowing that these guys have a problem with a closing problem, getting clients problem, or a lead flow problem in some way, shape, and form. So we can have a conversation with them like, hey, what type of clients do you work with? How many are you currently getting at the moment? How many would you like to be getting? And hypothetically, right, like you opted in for a sales script in the first place, right? Like, would it be fair to say that you might be having a closing issue that's preventing you from getting up there right now? Or is it something else entirely at the same time as well, right? And as a consequence of that, you're already in a position where you have a really clear conversation going on inside their head where they go, fuck, I feel understood, right? One, you've already displayed that you actually have a solution to a problem of theirs in the first place. And two, now you have a conversation going with them where they have trust with you. They have this alignment internally where they go, oh my God, you fucking get where I'm at. And now you're in a position where asking if they want help is literally just as simple as, man, you know how there's that thing that I showed you, right? Like, would it help you out at all if I sort of walk you through how we could literally install that in your business at the same time as well? And people book it like crazy, if that makes sense, right? And I think where most people fuck up is like they don't have that system in place. And that's why it's really hard for most people to get clients, because most of the people you're speaking to don't already want what you're selling, right? So when you do it this way, they already have an intent to actually get a problem solved, right? There's no way that could be argued, right? People don't just opt in for things randomly unless there's a reason that they're not where they want to be right now. So there's an intent in some way, shape, and form, which just makes it significantly easier to be able to go, fuck, okay, now I know this person's in trouble and I'm going to be able to help them through something at the same time too. Any other examples that you know of, I guess, like flows of this or issues that people are having, conversations that you see that we fix with this at the same time as well?
Yeah, I think what you're saying, man, like this is like nailed it on the head when it comes to the flow. I think the only issues that some of the people have is like not being able to properly find a problem in the DM, or like, and usually it's because like they'll look at a pain and think it's a problem, and that's just like them understanding.
I'm also not convinced that you need a problem.
You don't really fully need a problem, really.
No, I don't think. I'm not convinced you need a problem at all. I'm convinced that you need a goal and a gap, and ask if someone wants to actually get to their goal. Right? That's what I'm probably more convinced about. If you get a problem, it's more a bonus. It's definitely good to have one.
It's a nice thing.
But that's where the triage call itself is like, cool, man, you said you wanted to get to that goal. Well, what's preventing you from getting there?
Yeah, right.
Learning this more and more, like the problem is definitely the basis of the sale 10 times over. But like the thing is, a lot of prospects don't know what the actual problem is, right? That's why we do problem education content in the first place, right? It's like, so about person and problem. The intent is to actually educate the person that you want to work with on why they don't have what they would like right now. Because it's so frequent that most people don't know what they actually have as an issue in the first place. However, if you're struggling to get to 100 grand per month and someone says, hey, we have clients that are crushing right now, do you want to catch up to see how we're actually helping our clients get to 100 grand a month right now? The likelihood of them saying yes to that is still high because they don't know how to get it themselves. The issue with like problems is like a lot of people don't know what the fuck the issue is, right? That's why I usually give the multiple choice sort of thing, because they can pick one and you can just dig into that at the same time as well. But don't beat yourself up if you don't get one, because you can still make an offer based around the goal at the same time too. It's kind of the way I see it. But the problem is 1,000,000% the basis of the sell, right? And that's why we want people to do problem education in their content, right? I.e. like what we're doing right now, right? Like we're doing problem education. So people go, fuck, that's an issue, that's an issue, that's an issue. This is sort of the stuff that if you're not doing yourself right now, like this is stuff you should definitely be doing for, I guess, your market at the same time too, right? And in my opinion, that's one of like the hardest things people have a struggle with. It's not understanding what the problems are. It's just like, it's that they're just not marketing the reasons why the problem exists or the mistakes people are making in the first place too, right? Like maybe for let's think someone that works with contractors, right? What's the type of problem awareness type content they should be putting out?
Biggest issue, right, that you'll face in your marketing or anything with contractors is the whole like hiring issue. People think, and there's like a problem education and needing to see like, oh, if you just had better marketing that actually got you quality jobs, like a lot of things get fixed in your business. So you could be educating people through your examples of like how getting quality jobs that are higher ticket for your contractors has led to like needing less employees, getting easier to retain because they're making more money per job, and you have more money to like make the company better. Like a lot more examples. So like that's a huge thing that like you can educate people on. Another one is like sales management. Like a lot of the contractors will have a ton of leads and they're just inconsistent sales because they're just not actually fucking converting in their pipeline. So like actually understanding the issues that you need to solve in the pipeline itself, like in the follow-up to get consistent sales. Like these are some of the examples, like you need to be educating people consistently about this, right? And as a consequence of that, by the time they get to your conversation in the DM, like their awareness level is just, it far exceeds like a cold DM. And this process becomes like fucking self-diagnosis. It's just at the doctor. They already know the issue is that they have this fucking sickness. And it's just like, here's the symptoms. Here's what I'm feeling, doctor. Like, these are the issues. Like, sure, here's what I want, right? So these are kind of like that. Contractors, I would say those are the big ones as well. Might be a couple others. But yeah, that's what comes to mind.
Yeah, cool. Genuinely couldn't agree more, because they come up like as like pain points or whatever it is all the time. And like, in my opinion, I think the reason why most people don't have a full client roster of clients they want is like, it's just marketing. That's the issue, right? Like, and in my opinion, most of the problems that are in the business could be fixed by better marketing at the same time too. Now, the reason why I'm sharing all this in this way, right, is like, if you don't have all the stuff that's on there in place, it's really fucking hard to market to get the person who you want on a call who has the pain point that you want to solve in the first place, right? But if you can get the marketing done really well, i.e. based on the person and the problem, and then show them the solution in your marketing at the same time as well, and then so like problem awareness marketing plus an opt-in of some sort to get them to start a conversation with you about a problem that they would ideally want solved, that you solve, and then make sure that your scripting is actually based on problem awareness and actually sort of aligning with the thing that they've already opted in for in the first place. Booking calls is it's an absolute breeze, right? Whether it's for you or a setter or whatever it is, this is where you can actually create predictability and inflow of people who already want what you're selling in the first place. And the cool thing is, if you learn how to do this really fucking well, you can learn how to do it really fucking well for your clients too, which makes it really, 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 really easy to actually sell based on value as opposed to, I'll help you get X. You can make a promise to these people by learning these skills that I'm going to be able to help you get the clients you actually want as opposed to the ones you're getting. And that's why your hiring issues are fucked or whatever else it is at the same time as well, right? That's why this stuff's super duper, 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 duper important, right? I guess, is there anything else that you see outside, I guess, the activity and all of the stuff that would prevent people from like being able to get a good client in the first place, other than what we've communicated here just now? Client actually client better than good client anyway.
Yeah. I think the like big thing, man, is just like we're hitting it on the nail with marketing, and that's like fucking 80% of it. The script, like DM shit, is like just like a sub part of it. The only other thing is just like, you don't have an audience, like you're not actually building that. But that's, again, like part of marketing, right? Like you should be building an audience as well, but
marketing function.
Yeah. Like I don't really see anything else. I think it's because like, even if you fucking have an audience, like just taking away like digital and all that stuff, right? Imagine if your audience was 200 people in your BNI group and you did this stuff, right? Like just like you'll get the clients you want. So I think end of the day, like this is the core of it. Everything else is a consequence of first, like make sure you do this stuff is how I see it.
Cool. So the process to actually getting the clients though, right? Like you do want to make sure that you have an audience built of people who ideally already do want what you're selling in the first place too, right? You want to make sure that you're marketing consistently in such a way where you are doing problem awareness content once a day, or at least something to the effect of that, and probably one like lead magnet every week that would get you opt-ins for a problem that you ideally want someone to be working with you on in the first place at the same time too. And you probably want to actually aim for somewhere between 40 to 50 opt-ins per week is probably ideal. So opt-ins in this context is either going to be like a lead magnet opt-in or a new group member, right? If you can get yourself 50 as a combination of these per week, right? Remember I said 1 to 2 people per 10 people that you speak to will book in for a call, if that makes sense, right? This is where you'll be able to actually say, okay, cool. Now I've got my marketing, I've got my people who've opted in onto the stuff as well. I can have conversations with those, 50 people or whatever it is through that period of time and be able to book the 5 calls that I needed to be able to close the clients I needed at the same time too, right? 5 calls, even if you sucked at all this stuff, you can get your 1 client per week, which in 12 months, if you follow that effectively, you'll be able to get the 1 client per week to be able to do that, right? Now, why I'm communicating it in this way is because audience needs to be there. The marketing needs to be done on a weekly basis at the same time too. This could be group content or profile content. Realistically, it doesn't matter as much as done is better than perfect in the context that we're talking about. And we just need to be able to get those 5 calls per week, right? So if you can get 50 opt-ins of some sort, which is pretty easier to do because between group members and the actual opt-ins that you'll actually put out, so the lead magnets you might put out to start this conversation at the same time as well. If you suck at sales, right, we'll get you your 1 client per week at 20% close from the 5 calls that you're going to take at the same time too, right? So like that would be your plan for you to be able to, like your marketing plan and your, messenger plan or whatever it is for you to be able to get your 1 client per week at the same time too, right? So you want to be having like 50 active conversations to be able to get yourself your 5 to 10 calls, depending on whatever it is on the skill side there. If you use that scripting we sort of mentioned before, and that's what's going to get you the 1 client per week. What I'd like to get into in a second, as long as Faris doesn't have anything else that he thinks is missing there, is like, I want to talk about the future problems this is going to create for you and the pathway you'll need to take as a journey in the business itself, not just getting the clients per week, but what you need to do once you actually start getting a client per week, how you set up your onboarding, your client success, and who to hire, when to hire, and what the journey of that looks like at the same time too, so that once you do have all these clients, you're actually putting yourself in a position where you're obviously fixing the inconsistent sales issue, but you're also getting yourself out of the day-to-day in such a way where you're in a position now where you're actually becoming the CEO of the company like you'd fucking hope to have been in the first place at the same time too, right? Before we go into that, is there anything here that you think that's sort of missing, is going to sort of prevent someone or that's a big rock that would stop someone from getting that 1 client per week?
No, those are the 4 things like that you just need to make sure happen every single week to actually get a client every single week. That's it.
Like it's frustratingly simple.
Yeah, that's the hard part, right? Like we just naturally want to
you're going to want to overcomplicate that like crazy, right? Like you're going to want to overcomplicate that, and I think that's the challenge for most people, if that makes sense, right? My suggestion is don't.
Like, don't try and do ads and emails, and don't try and fucking.
My suggestion is don't overcomplicate that. That's probably a good idea. So what's really interesting about this now, right, is like as we're starting to bring the clients up, if that makes sense, right? We want to start thinking about what's the actual development pathway you want to be focused on for you to be able to go from that, 6-figure to a multi-6 or 7-figure business at the same time too. What's the hiring pathway, when to hire, what to look for, and all to the stuff at the same time too, right? So if you're at that like 10K per month, the first sort of milestone you're going to want to get to is around that 30, right? This is all sales plus 1 VA. That's pretty much it, right? It's all sales plus 1 VA is kind of the way that you want to go about that.
One thing I'll add, most people, I've met a lot of people who are at 30K who have like team members of 5, and they feel like they couldn't do it without. And it's because they just have the first thing we said, which is just like
wrong person, wrong problem, wrong marketing, wrong pricing,
all that shit.
All that stuff, right? Like you could very easily do this. Some people might at some, it kind of depends
on the
it depends on the offer and it depends on the person at the same time as well. But at 20 grand, you could bring in possibly a client success manager or an account manager of some sort at the same time too.
But like, think about it, man. Like if you have like 3K per month service, for that's like 10 people that you have, that's just super manageable with a VA and just yourself.
Yeah, it's just good time management.
It's a good time management, like that's really it. Most people fuck up and they don't charge enough, and there's all the things we talked about before, which is your delivery shit if you don't have the specificity in your like person problem process.
Yeah, it's just really good time management more than anything else, right?
Yeah.
And the really cool thing about this is like you can give all tasks that are not revenue generating activities to your virtual assistant, right? Like even with an onboarding of clients, like getting them to fill out whatever fucking shit they might need to fill out, or getting them across the onboarding documents, or whatever it might be, you can very easily get your virtual assistant to help with that. Like Mary still helps us with ours now,
Yeah, 3 years
right?
later,
Like
right?
3 years later, she's the goat of doing that, right? Like, and
Shout out, Mary.
shout out Mary, God bless you. And the cool thing is, like, the reason why I say bring in someone like a client success manager first is because no one in the company is going to be better at selling than you right now, right? And with your to bring someone in, what you need to kind of do is, like, you need to have a journey in place. The really cool thing about what I'm talking about over here is if you get your person and problem done really well, now you have a process in place, i.e. here, that you can train a client success manager to, so they can very clearly say, okay, cool, we get this done, and this done, and this is the actual way you communicate with the client in such a way where they fully understand they're going to get this result, the expectations are managed, and I know how to actually help someone at the same time too, right? So, like, this is why having that person problem process, which is like the core essence of our offer linking that we do with everyone at the same time as well, it's why having that in place is so fucking important, because it makes it really easy for anyone you bring in as a team member to go, fuck, that's how we help this client, right? You can give them examples, you can give them a bunch of different things at the same time too, which makes it really fucking easy, right? When we help someone bring someone in for this, the only things we really want to make sure they have is like a clear pathway for them to be able to help a client actually go from A to Z or whatever it is. And we want them to be able to have at least $3 to $6 grand a month to be able to pay them, so that they can take off 20 to 30 hours a week off your plate so that you can focus on selling more metal. Right? And the really cool thing about that is, like, you'll very likely find someone who is probably in your audience right now who want to do it. Right? Like, it's really cool how frequently you'll find your best team members from your existing audience, right? People who are in your space or who have been followers, who've been watching all the stuff that you've been teaching, who just go like, that's a guy I want to work with. I'm not liking what I'm doing so much right now. Or it could be someone that was in the audience who's just like, I have, like, what we do is great, and like, I want to actually help other people in the space do the same too, because I love what you guys do, right? Like, you'll find so many people in your audience. This is, again, why building the audience is such a fucking key thing at the same time as well. When you get to a point where you have to hire at scale, you actually go back to this process again, funny enough, and you start actually building an audience of the actual hires you'd like, market to get hires, and then use the same process, funny enough, like the sales process, to bring people in. But for that's a different conversation for a different day. So this stage, the main problems we want to solve here are just like get you out of day-to-day, make sure you have more time to sell more metal. Any other thing else that they know? Okay, cool. So 30 to 50 is going to be definitely make sure this guy is doing super well to ensure that you actually are in a great place and in a position to do things that give you your time back. Now we want to build a setting playbook, right? This doesn't mean that you can hand it off just yet, but what we're going to do is like very like clearly break down what it takes to go from lead to sales call for you to be able to actually pass off a bunch of different examples and scripts and a process for an appointment setter to possibly come into your offer so you can ramp lead flow up and actually help them out at the same time too, right? Where most people fuck up here, like I said before, you give someone an ingredient list but no know-how and no tools to use to be able to do it, and they're going to fail. But you build a playbook and make sure there's a lead flow to do so. You'll be able to bring a setter on to do whatever the fuck you want, whenever you want at the same time too. Now, I don't actually recommend that most people typically bring them on at 30 grand. I say at 30 grand, start building your playbook, right? Start building your playbook out is probably the bigger thing to do, if that makes sense, right? Or at least have this intent mentally on what it is that you ideally want to be building the playbook for, so that when you're actually, like, because I also think that about this stage, this is where we go, fuck, I hate doing this. if you change your mentality around and go, I don't hate doing this because I'm doing it with the intent of building the playbook so that the person that I actually have coming in will be able to take over without any fucking fear or insecurity outside normal human stuff, right? But it's very clear as to what they can do. So me doing this is not because I need to do it forever, it's doing it so I can build the playbook more than anything else, if that makes sense, right? In this period of time, you will sign clients up. As you're signing clients up through that, your CSM is going to be able to take those clients on, make sure that they're doing all the best things in the world for them. You'll have a meeting with them per week to be able to make sure everything's all good. You'll be signing clients up. Now things are going to start getting a little bit, I'm not going to say stressful, but like setting, making sure they're okay, and selling is getting a little bit strenuous, if that makes sense. Then you can start looking at bringing someone in at around probably the 45 to 50 grand per month as a setter, if you want to, right? Something that I think is worth mentioning here too, if your marketing is good enough, you might not want to.
Just raise prices.
Right, you could just raise prices, or you could just continue doing the same, if that makes sense, right? Like you could have such a good filtering system with your marketing that they just like, how can I pay you, right? Like we have so many clients that have gotten up to that like sort of like 60 grand, 70 grand without any fucking support on the setting side at all. But I wouldn't do it sort of before here, but I would determine based on how you want your life to be and what it is you'd like to be doing on a daily basis as to whether you'll take a setter on or not. Because it's just an additional mouth you're going to feed at the same time too, if that makes sense, right? Now, if you have the playbook in place and everything works out in such a way where you hire someone that can just follow the process and has great effort at the same time too, now you're in a position where you can actually take all your time back. And remember, if we were at 10 grand, we're up at 50, and our average is at sort of that 2,500, whatever it was per month, we've probably taken on about 25 clients, 20 clients now, right? So we're 20 out of 50, right? 20 out of 50. If we send you next 50 clients, right? We're trying to give you the whole pathway so you can see like what would need to be in place for you to be able to do this at the same time too, so that there's no fucking surprises and you can start, I guess, avoiding preventable problems for yourself, right? Mm-hmm. Really important to do so. Now, in order for you to go from the 20 to the, from 20 to get the other 30, again, you can very easily choose to continue doing the same. You could, if you really fucking wanted to and you just enjoy marketing, setting, selling, you could just add another CSM. Mm-hmm. If you really wanted to, right? That's an option, right?
Yeah.
Not a lot of people are gonna want to do that. Some people might want to hire a setter, right? So the next person would ideally be a setter if that were the case. What we typically do here with people, I can think of 3 clients right now. I can think of Matt Tebow, I can think of Colin, I can think of Zach. All 3 of their setters are in our program. They come to our calls. We review their conversations. We review their numbers. We go through the process of making it so you know exactly how to lead them and exactly what's preventing them from being able to get the results they want, so you can help guide them and better your playbook out in some way, shape, and form, so that your results just start going like up like this, right? So I guess what I'm talking about here is like we don't promise to actually help someone hire, train, and manage an appointment setter, but what we do promise is like when you get to that stage, if you bring someone on, or when you bring someone on, you can chuck them in our program. They can go through all our stuff, and they can understand the core principles of things, and they can chuck things into our group to find out, hey, can you help me with this? Because I'm struggling myself right now, with the intent of being able to say, cool, this is it, this is it. And this is where, like, if you're already at this or above right now and you have a setter who isn't performing anywhere near as good as you'd like them to, you can still join us. We can help you fix the marketing so they have better opportunity flow in the beginning, and then they can actually share all their work with us. We can go through it and make it really easy for you to make sure that you can actually get them up to KPI at the same time as well, right?
Yeah.
Really, 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 really cool. What do you have to add to that? Because I know you moved and you're ready.
Yeah. I was just going to say, like, because those 3 people he's mentioning, Chris and I work with, and honestly, there's one distinction in how we do it, which is we help those people become really good leaders so that they actually are able to lead, in addition to making sure the setter is actually taken care of. They have the trainings, they have everything they need, they come to the support. But those guys, they actually know, like, what does the playbook need to look like for the setter? How frequent do I need to be reviewing? What do I need to be reviewing? What is the feedback I need to be giving them? Like, these are the questions that get answered. And honestly, the only thing that I'd add just a little bit to be more specific, because we want you guys to have as much clarity as possible from this training, is like if this is an agency, like this CSM here might be like a fulfillment manager, like it might be
a media buyer,
whatever, right?
Absolutely.
The different, like,
yeah, for sure.
Media, SEO, like, and then you might bring a CSM instead of a setter at this stage. Depends. If you're a coaching offer, like it might be a account manager with some coaching experience, right? And it's just, that's like the specific stuff that we kind of work with people to make sure it's personalized for them. But high level, it's like VA, more skilled delivery person that comes in that manages stuff at this kind of stage here. Playbooks in place for sales at the next stage. And then pretty much just a decision whether you want to bring in a support person for sales or you just want to keep hammering in delivery. My preference is delivery because I think you should just fucking sell to the end of the fucking world, because like nobody's gonna fucking do that, like, honestly. But you know, some people are like, no, I have kids, I don't want to fucking bang. If you're younger, right, like you might want to do that. If you're a little older, you're like, nah, like I want to bring some help. So kind of preference on your plan. And this is again a general pathway, and personalization comes in like with the clients we work with, we can't help them out. But that's kind of what I had to add, just like the specificity of all that stuff as well.
Yeah, honestly. Really good to mention too, though, right? Like the amount of people we've helped hire media buyers or helped hire account managers or helped hire digital marketers in general or helped hire actually, and then there's the opposite, breaking business partnerships up too. That's a different story.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We've saved some coin, guys.
Yeah,
we've helped people get out of bad deals.
100%, bro.
That's always in the best interest of the leader of the business.
Completely. Yeah. Sort of back on track, right? Like at this sort of stage, now potentially have the setter in place, right? We can help train them up and make sure that everything's okay, review the conversations. For you in the beginning, if this wasn't clear too, right? Like we will review your convos, your calls, so that we can fucking find out like what's preventing you from closing more people. Where are the objections you're getting that we can actually help infiltrate into your marketing to kill objections in your marketing and help pre-sell people before they can get you in the first place so that you can actually sell more metal, right? The idea is that we never have you in a position where you don't understand what to do next or what's not working, or what's preventing you from getting more of the actual results you'd like to get at the same time too, right? Now, the cool thing is once you bring team on, what we would do for you is what we do for them. We just teach you how to not fuck it up for them. That's pretty much it, right? Cool way to do it. That's usually like when someone works with us for a second round, if that makes sense, right? Like, you know, our initial time frame working with someone is usually sort of between that like 16 weeks to 24 weeks, like 4 to 6 months in the beginning. And then usually to get team trained and all the stuff as well, it's usually an additional sort of 6 months thereafter that to get the leadership in place and the systems in place and the processes in place at the same time as well to ensure that you can actually like get them the best result. And just so you know, there isn't a world where we just like throw you to the curb and think that you're by yourself, if that makes sense, right? Anyway, so now we have the setter in. They're doing well. Biggest sort of bottlenecks here are like getting them up to speed, understanding what's wrong with what they're not understanding, all to the stuff as well. When we break through that, which doesn't take too long, maybe sort of 8 weeks or thereabouts to fully understand and start to grasp it, it's just simplifying things. That's all it is, right? Now we're able to start selling more metal, if that makes sense, right? This team here will get you to you might want to grab another CSM.
Yeah.
They will get you to the 50 clients, right?
Pretty much.
That will get you to the 50 clients, right? Now, if you wanted to bring a closer in, that's a different kettle of fish, if that makes sense. If you already have a closer, it's a different story. But what you would ideally want to do is like make sure your delivery team can actually take on all the clients that do exist and are there at the same time as well. And all we're doing is focusing on 1 client per week, right? Once you bring the setter on, you might ramp it up to 2 clients per week because that would actually help them make a really good income at the same time too. So hypothetically, let's say this takes, first 20 might take, let's say 1 client per week, 5 months. Right? We might at month 6 say, okay, cool, let's ramp it up to 2 clients per week.
Yeah.
Right? Then you take on those last 30 in the space of 15 weeks, which is 4 months. So in 10 months, you could be at the 50 clients in that context at the same time too, right? The really cool thing is like, it's actually very, 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 very simple to do so. You just need to play a little bit of the long game and just focus on, instead of like, how do I get to 50 grand or how do I get to 100 grand? It's like, what needs to happen to get that one client per week, right? What else do you sort of have to say around that in expectations for them to sort of understand what it takes to go from, the 10 to 50 clients, right?
You brought all the right stuff there. I mean, I think the main thing is just like if you have a done for you service, your client success, account manager, digital, like whatever you want to freaking call it, they'll manage like 25 people. If you have more of a coaching service, you could they can probably do up to 60, 50 people if they're trained properly. That's kind of some context I'll add in. Some of the other stuff as well is like, I think that the some of the challenges people have at this point, man, it's just like character. Right, like the ability to actually remain consistent in doing that client a week, which is a different story, but like that's a consideration too, which is stuff that like we tend to help people. We lift them up as much as we can, but those are other than that, man, like this is a really good like very realistic. I've seen it happen in client success a ton of times, and like I think if you can wrap your head around it and really just set yourself up in this expectation and not try to rush this process and actually want to build a business that will last and sustain, instead of going into your next week like saying, how do I get this all in place? Just be like, okay, cool, like what do I need to get a client a week for the next month, right? Like, and that's kind of the question you want to ask, as opposed to how do I get a 50K per month business right now, right?
Yeah, the realistic way to look at this is like you can go from 10 to 83 to 100 grand per month in sort of like 10 to 12 months, right? Sustainably, you make great money, your team makes great money, and then you put yourself in a position where you essentially have freedom of choice and can create whatever the fuck you want in this life, right?
Word.
And the cool thing is like, if you've watched this long, right, like this has probably been about an hour or whatever it is, you're probably the type of person that isn't the type of person that wants to settle and do nothing. You're probably the type of person that isn't the type of person that wants to regret not being able to do these things and not being able to put yourself in a position where you aren't able to simply create a business that might get to 50 to 100 grand with a great team on board. And it's very likely that you're not sitting there thinking, fuck, if you've listened this long, you're probably not sitting there thinking like these guys suck because you probably wouldn't have watched this long, if that makes sense, right? Now, the biggest thing is like, what I don't want you to do is think about what happened in 2023 as a negative or positive, but it's just like, where are the regrets that you did have so far in 2023 that if you just had good systems and processes in place would have made all the difference for you to be able to create the business you'd actually love to actually be leading at the same time too? Is it that you do have clients that aren't good fits? Is it that you do have really inconsistent sales? Is it that you do have a really underperforming team right now, or an over-indexed team that you aren't able to actually pay for in some way, shape, and form? And maybe there's a conversation happening at home at the dinner table where maybe your wife is wondering when the fuck things are going to turn around or whatever it might be at the same time too, right? And I guess the question for you is like, which of the things that we mentioned so far is it that you think that you need to have in place most, right? Is it the acquisition system side where it's like, I need to be able to get people to know who I am, what I do, how they can actually help with me, and actually put all the pieces in place to be able to get that one client per week in the first place? Is it that, like, do you need to be able to get more clients, more calls, and everything around that too? Is it that you need to be able to get the team in place to be able to help you manage the acquisition system, and you can put yourself in a position where you can actually help them very clearly hit their income goals, make their job really fucking easy, both be chasing down a mission that you guys both fucking love at the same time, and then build them up to be the version of themselves that they would ideally love to be, so that you guys can create all that at the same time too? Or is it that you need to level the fuck up and become the leader that you need to do, overcome the self-sabotage you might be experiencing right now, and actually create the shit that you want to create that you said you wish you would have done in 2023, but didn't end up actually doing at the same time too, right? This is kind of where, if you think that it would be helpful, you should reach out. Happy to run through whatever it is that might be preventing you from doing the actual, the best that you could right now. Is it the acquisition system? Do you have marketing that's not performing the way you'd like it to? Are you not booking the calls you'd like? Are you not getting the clients you want? Is your team not performing the way that you'd like it to be? Or are you just not the person that you think that you need to be right now to be able to actually facilitate the actual work that needs to be done to be able to get to 100 grand per month? If so, I'd like to invite you to come catch up. Message myself or Kyle or Faris, Find out what it is that's not working for you right now. We'll do a complete audit to work out what it is that you need to do. No fucking reason that you would be able to, no reason that you wouldn't be able to get a very clear plan whether you work with us or not, but you'd be stupid not to, in my opinion, at the same time too. That's kind of it from me. Anything else from you?
The only thing I have to say is don't miss out on an opportunity to sell some fucking metal. Look forward to hearing from you.
What I want you to think about is like, if you look back at the end of 2024, would you regret not putting everything in place to give yourself and your family the things that you said you would do? Catch you all soon and sell more metal.
Peace.